saints and popes and priests and presidents, gurus and shamanic healers, pharmacological dealers, zealots righteous in rebirth and worshipers of Mother Earth.
Wow, that's Perry Mills you're listening to, the Perry Mills Project. He will be coming on the show here before too long. Also, I think we got a confirmation that he's agreed to come and be subject to the Hundredth Monkey Radio with Tom and Ramon. Oh, so how we doing tonight, Ramon?
I'm doing pretty good. It's my morning time, so I'm having my coffee.
Yeah, I want to thank you for all the weather that you've been sending my way.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Yeah. This will be airing by the time this airs. I think this system should be most of the way across the country by then. This is we are recording this November 19th, and I just went through one heck of a lot. The last 24 hours here, it has been blustery, let's put it that way. And I've had plenty of rain. We're catching up on the 3 dry months we had, I think. Right. So, see, you guys can catch us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, BMO. Where else, Ramon?
I think that's it. I don't know any other place.
I'd like to plug a couple other shows that are doing really well coming out of the gates that I find absolutely a very big plus to this genre. We've got John Kelly doing the UFO AM on YouTube, and guys, I would check that out. We've really needed something here in the U.S. that did it. It's a daily show, something that did a good, legitimate, and very articulate and concise reporting on what's happening in our skies on a daily basis, and he does a pretty good analysis too. So, also, yeah, he's doing some of his backward speech analysis too during that show. And if you guys haven't ever checked that stuff out, that stuff is amazing, absolutely amazing. Some of the stuff that comes through in backwards speech. Right.
Yeah, I'll start posting them on the website so you can find them there. But I'll change them off him because he does it twice a day. He does it in the 7 o'clock in the morning Pacific time and 7 p.m. Pacific time as well. So I'll try to keep up with that and change them up and put the new ones up there.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be on his show Friday morning. So 2 days ago I was on his show.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I don't have any idea what I said yet.
I haven't seen it.
Well, I haven't seen it either, so, but it's kind of bizarre, future, past, present. Oh, let's see, anything else, Ramon, before we get going with our guest tonight?
No, I'm really excited about having this person on, and it's funny because we had, when we first started the show, we made a list of people we would love to have on the show, and that's another one we get to scratch off.
Yeah, there we go. So, after experiencing 2 close broad daylight UFO sightings, Darryl Anka began to research the subject as well as becoming familiar with an array of metaphysical topics, including channeling. His path led him to become a channeler for an extraterrestrial entity called Bashar, which is an Arabic word that means messenger. Daryl's been channeling Bashar's information internationally for over 30 years now, and he's providing powerful methods by which people can change their lives in positive ways. Now, I've been keeping I was exposed to Bashar probably back in 2000. Oh, geez, 2002, 2003, something like that. And
I'm later. It wasn't until like 2007, 8
yeah.
for me.
But as soon as I saw him, more so in like 2008, I started really digging into this stuff a little bit deeper again. And this guy, he's right there at the very top when it comes to channelers, as far as what I've seen out there as being the information that's coming out, the consistency of it, I mean, everything to me screams, yay, we've got a really good one here. So, Darryl Anka, welcome to the 100th Monkey Radio.
Well, thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I made the comments there like, yay, we got a really good one here. And I say that because there's, I hate to go there right at the beginning of the show, but there's so many flakes out there. It's disheartening. But anyways, I see you as there's just a handful of channelers that I've been exposed to that I resonate as, that truth vibration comes through with them. So, and you're right there at the top. So.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here, sir.
The funny thing, Daryl, is that sometimes there's one student and that I have here that I teach English to, and we're always talking about you and all the stuff Bashar says, and it's just amazing to have an English class all about about this.
About an extraterrestrial who doesn't even speak English.
So, for our listeners, Daryl, I mean, we mentioned in the bio that you had 2 close encounters that got you kicked off in this direction.
Yes.
And I'm sure some of our listeners are familiar with this story, but if you don't mind recounting it for us, and we would.
Oh, not at all. My pleasure. It started back 10 years before the channeling in the early 70s. I had 2 very close broad daylight sightings of a black equilateral triangular ship about 20, 30 feet on a side. The first time about 150 feet away, and the second time only about 70 feet away. Obviously very startled by this. Both of these sightings happened within 1 week of each other, and that started me moving in the direction of learning about such things, because once you see something like that, you just have to know what is behind it, because it is very different and comes from a very different reality than we're told exists here. And so in pursuing, investigating the idea of UFOs, and you just, especially back then, there weren't many books on metaphysical subjects, and so they sort of all were piled on the same shelf in the bookstores, and so I would just kind of go down the line and see what else was of interest, and eventually came across the Jane Roberts Seth books on channeling and got into those a bit, found them fascinating. And 10 years after the sightings, I was introduced to a channel who was doing seminars at the time, and I went and I listened for a few months, and I thought the information was quite good and quite helpful. And eventually the entity coming through that channel actually offered to teach a channeling class. Now, I went into the class not because I thought I would become a channel. I just wanted to continue my research and understand how something like channeling could be taught, because I didn't realize that it could be. I thought it was sort of something that just happened to you. And in the class, which was a 12-week course, once a week, for 12 weeks, series of guided meditations to put you in touch with whatever you wanted, to use that connection for, whether it be just your own higher self or more creativity, or, if you were open to other entities, fine. But about halfway through the course, when I was in one of the meditational states, I received what I can only explain as a telepathic connection, and it was like somebody shoved a CD in my head. It was just like suddenly all this information was there in the blink of an eye, and in that one split second, an actual memory came back of having made an agreement to do this with Bashar in this life, an agreement made before this life, and I understood in that moment that the UFO had been shown to me on purpose to get me to start learning what I needed to learn to do the research, so that by the time I had done the research, I would be ready to go ahead and go forward. And the message that was there in that same moment from Bashar was, now you remember you made this agreement, and now you know it's time to begin. Is this something you still want to do? And I had to think about this for a moment, because I didn't know if I was experiencing some sort of side effect from the meditation, or hallucinating, or what was going on exactly. But at the exact moment that this was going on in my head, the entity coming through the channel that was teaching the class stopped talking to the class and turned right to me and said, "There is now somebody here for you if you're ready to begin." And I found out later after that class that night that another classmate sitting in the back had also gotten an impression in her head of exactly what I saw in my head as a representation of Bashar as an extraterrestrial being. And she had actually drawn it. And so I had immediately two outside validations that something real was happening here. And so I decided, okay, well, by this point I understood that it didn't really matter so much whether I believed that Bashar was really an extraterrestrial or whether this was just another portion of my consciousness. What mattered was the channeling state is a true altered state, a natural altered state that we all have the ability to go into, and many of us do go into from time to time, like when you're doing something you really love to do and you're not noticing the passage of time. When an actor becomes the character, a singer gets lost in the song, that's a channeling state. And I knew that in that state, you just are capable of expanding your view to a much broader perspective, and you can bring through different insights, different points of view, and information that can help people make positive changes in their lives. And for that reason, I decided I'll go ahead, I'll practice, I'll see where this leads. But Bashar does present himself as an extraterrestrial being, and we just simply honor that because that is the way the information comes through. And at some point, I assume he will make himself known to us in some physical way, and of course then that would be all the proof anyone needs. But until that point, they want to stay in the background because to them, as I said, the information is what's important. If it works for you, if it helps make positive changes in your lives, that's the reason to do it. I went ahead and continued the class, and I guess I did well enough that the teacher actually asked me to do the next class with them, to teach the next class with him and channel with him. And from that class, I was contacted by a woman who was doing one of the first doctoral thesis papers on the connection between psychology and channeling. And I became one of her, I guess, subjects, in a sense, so she could write her paper. And she invited me to her house. I would channel for her friends, and she would write her paper, take her notes. But the first week we did that was 5 of her friends. And then the second week, word of mouth spread, and it was 10 of her friends. And then the third week was 20 of her friends. And it just kept growing and growing and growing by word of mouth until we had to do it twice a week and then in 2 houses a week. And then we had to start renting auditoriums. And then people would, hear about it, and they would invite me to other cities, other countries. And just basically for a long time, by word of mouth and almost nothing else, I wound up, going all over the place to do this. And here I am, like you said, pretty much 30 years later, still doing this, along with other things, of course, but it's still going full speed ahead.
Great. So you also work in the movie industry, too.
Yeah, I was for many, many years working in special effects, miniatures, storyboards, set design, things like that. I have since, in the last few years, shifted over to writing, directing, and producing. My company is Zia Films, and we've just recently finished our first feature film as a production company, which we're now talking to distributors about. And, of course, we're writing and planning a lot of other films as well, one of which I'm also doing with April, who runs Bashar Communications, the company that distributes all the Bashar material. And we're actually in the early stages of developing a film about Bashar and how I became a channel. So that's also on the slate coming up soon. But the original movie we finished is actually, it's called Dearly Departed, and it's a fictional documentary. We shot it as if we took a camera into the spirit world and interviewed the spirits of dead people to get their take on life after death. It's loosely based on information and reports of near-death experiences and what people reported experiencing on the other side. And we decided to do it as a fictional documentary because we didn't just want to do dry information. We wanted to have characters that people could relate to. And we kind of came out of the idea of saying, gee, wouldn't it be cool if we could take a camera into the afterlife? And we said, well, why don't we just shoot it as if we did anyway? And I think it just gives it a lot more heart, and people can relate to the characters, the spirits in the movie as they talk about, what their lives were like, what they've learned on the other side, and perhaps what they would have changed in their lives had they had the chance before they died. So we're working now on getting that out to the public, either in theaters or DVDs.
Nice. I'll look forward to it.
So the film you're gonna do with about you, Bashar, and and you channeling Bashar, is that gonna be a documentary style, or is it gonna be like?
Actually, we're doing both. We are going to be doing a documentary in tandem with doing an actual narrative drama with actors in it, because we also want to really show people what it is I see in my head when Bashar is describing things like his civilization and himself and all that kind of stuff, along with some of the principles he talks about that we'll illustrate through computer graphics. But we really feel like the narrative, dramatic version of it is what people will be able to really relate to as a story, and then we will have the companion, in a sense, documentary if they want to see, me, the person who really channels, and also, get a little bit more of a background information on what's going on with it.
So
that sounds exciting.
So what do you see when Bashar is giving explanation, say of his world and his civilization? Do you get a picture, or how do you perceive it?
Yeah, many times I will get a literal image based on certain things he's talking about. Sometimes it'll be abstract, depending on the concept he might be bringing through. Because, see, he's not really talking. He's just sending thoughts, and they get translated through my body. In the sense, I'm a biological translator. I'm programmed with English. That's why it comes out in English, but he's not speaking at all. So I'm standing, in a sense, in the stream of the telepathic transmission, and I get downloaded with concepts. I see images. I feel energies. I feel emotions. Sometimes what I see is literally what he's describing, and other times it's an abstract symbol that represents what he's talking about, but I don't really hear the words. And it's like a daydream. For me, it's in the same way that if you are lost in a daydream, a really strong, deep daydream, and somebody walks in the room and they have to call your name 5 times before you hear them, it's like that. The words are so far away and so secondary, they might as well be happening like in another building somewhere. And when I come out of it, it's like waking up from a dream, and I'm left, in a sense, with whatever concepts I need, but I don't remember what was actually said to anyone specifically that Bashar might be talking to directly.
Right. Now, I know that feeling, actually. I call it getting plugged in myself. That's the way I term it. When I'll be talking with a group or whatever, and I'll plug in and stuff just really flows. It just flows amazingly. And then when I'm done, I'm like, what did I say?
Right, exactly.
What was that? It sounded really good. I know it was really good.
I've seen that happen in another completely different field, which is in the field of like and it's funny that you say that in the beginning, because I've seen that with dancing, and it's happened to me, it's happened to other people. It's like, how did you do that? And they're like, I have not a clue. No
idea. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And channeling is a natural state. We all do it. We all have the ability. It's nothing really mysterious. It's just an altered state that allows us to really be more of who we are and tap into more of reality, more of creation. So for whatever purpose people want to put it toward, it's really just about, what's based on their vibration, what's based on their excitement as to what works best for them as to what they bring through and how they express it.
Yeah. Before we get into the meats and potato of Bashar's message, I would like to give the audience a background on who he is, where is he from, how old is he, those kind of things.
Sure. Well, let's see, where to begin. Bashar has presented himself. Now, I think, as you explained, they're telepathic in their society, and at the point to which they've evolved, they don't really have names. They don't need them, but they knew that we needed to call them something. And in the moment that I received my telepathic connection in the beginning, that word, Bashar, was there in the message. I am partly Arabic by heritage, but I don't really speak Arabic at all, and I had no idea what that word meant. I assumed it was his name. It wasn't until a couple of years after I started channeling that somebody actually came along and said, that's an Arabic word that means messenger. So obviously, even though it's not his name, it is appropriate to what he's doing. And the main thing that Bashar has said about himself and the reason he's doing this is, well, first of all, I guess, in a sense, we've put out there now as a civilization a kind of invitation to other forms of consciousness to interact with us. We're expanding, we're looking out to the stars, we're exploring different levels of spirituality and consciousness, and they respond to things like that. It's like lighting a beacon, and they answer those kinds of beacons. But in terms of who he is literally, and again, I'm only relating what he has explained about himself. Nobody has to believe that this is true. But the phenomenon that has been called euphemistically alien abduction on our planet, and this is a very general overview, so I'm being very generalized here. I know there's much more detail, much more specifics about this, but I'm just giving the broad view at the moment. That particular experience people call alien abduction, where they have reported that a civilization called the Greys have been, let's say, extracting genetic material from people, and many people have reported that they see the Greys are creating some sort of hybrid race, where they're taking some of their genetics and some of our genetics, and they're making a hybrid civilization, so to speak, that is halfway between them and us. Well, Bashar has said that his civilization is one of several of those hybrid civilizations that have been created by that particular program. And so in many ways they are literally related to us genetically, but they're much more evolved. They were created for the purpose of continuing a civilization the Grey civilization that had done something to itself to prevent itself from being capable of continuing, from being capable of procreating, and they knew that they had to have viable human DNA in order to create or perpetuate their society in some way, shape, or form. They feel connected to us, Bashar's people do, and thus they're here helping us go through this transformation and transition, because in many ways they consider us to be family, and they consider us to be their ancestors. And so they exist on a world that's in a slightly different parallel dimension than ours. It does have physicality. They describe themselves on average of being about 5 feet tall, whitish gray skin. Their heads are a little larger than ours. They are relatively slender. Their eyes are bigger than ours, but not so extreme as the Greys. It's really truly like halfway in between a human and a Grey. The males have no hair. The females do. It tends to be white, according to him, although there are exceptions. They live on a world that they call Ethasani in their ancient language, which they no longer use, which means place of living light. It is green. It is very similar to Earth. I think he has said it's a bit smaller. There's more water, more oxygen. It's something we could adjust to, and they don't really have seasons like we do. It's mostly temperate most of the time, give or take a range of maybe about 5 to 10 degrees. But it's very lush. They don't really have any built-up civilizations or cities on their planets. Their spacecraft are their cities, and they have anything all the way from small scout crafts all the way up to gigantic city ships. And they've left the planet relatively natural, with very few structures that have specific uses. There's animal life there that is different than ours, but somewhat similar. And he's talked about many different kinds of things that go on there, but one of the primary things, and the reason that Bashar is talking to us, is that he comes from a lineage of what they call first contact specialists. And basically they initiate contact with other worlds that put out the signal that they're ready to begin to have some kind of contact with other civilizations. And so in the bottom line, really, to these channelings with Bashar is, this is the first stage of contact with their civilization, and eventually, ideally, will actually lead to a physical contact once we've absorbed enough information from them and become familiar enough with them so that the contact will be beneficial to us and won't scare us or make us feel like they're gods that need to be worshipped or something like that. Once we're on more equal footing with them, that's when the physical contact will be more open. But for now, the information is the beginning stages of that contact.
Right. What can you tell us about their culture? Like, how different is it? You know, because you travel all the world and you've been here to Japan, and you see how different it is from one side of the planet to the other. So I'm always very curious about the sociology.
It's very different again. Since they are all telepathically connected, they, in a sense, consider themselves to be one family. They consider themselves to be in one marriage, so to speak. The children, when they do have them, are highly accelerated. I think they have said that even by the time of age 3, they're allowed to kind of start forming other connections and other relationships with other people, and they can kind of go where they want and learn what they want because they're never out of range. They're always in telepathic connection, so they always know where their children are, and all of the adults are, in a sense, considered, you know, or behave like parents to all the children. So it's a very open society in that sense. There are no borders, no countries, no real government of any sense. It's more there are organizing bodies that help facilitate things, but it's really a society that actually runs on synchronicity. They really trust that everyone will be exactly where they need to be when they need to be there, interacting with whom they need to interact at that moment. They obviously have various forms of unlimited energy, so there's no monetary system of any kind whatsoever. And at this particular point in their evolution, they're actually evolving slightly out of phase with physical reality, just as, our transformational age on Earth has talked about going from third density to fourth density. Well, they're simultaneously going from fourth density to fifth, which is actually a non-physical level. So they're kind of quasi-physical at this moment, and that's why they no longer eat, they no longer sleep. Even their acts of procreation don't really happen so much physically anymore. They talk about the idea of creating, in a sense, an energy field in which, if a spirit wishes to be incarnated on their planet, it simply forms a body in that energy field and is a new child right there and then. There's no actual carrying of a baby inside the woman's body anymore. And they're becoming a little bit more androgynous, even though you can still tell the difference between the males and the females on their planet. But as I said, their cities are their ships. They do a lot of exploring, make a lot of connections to other civilizations. They really do have kind of an, I guess you might want to call it an interstellar alliance or an association of worlds. And they know that there are also many other kinds of federations and associations throughout, their reality. But their planet is about 500 light years. Their star system is about 500 light years, he said, away from where we are in the direction of the Orion constellation. But we can't see their star because they're in a slightly altered parallel reality. We would actually have to make a frequency shift to go into their reality, just as they have to make a frequency shift to kind of come into ours and experience it as physical. But they orbit a star like we do. It's a little bit hotter than ours. Their planet is a little bit farther away from their star. I believe he said it's about 111 million miles, according to the way we count things. Their year is longer than ours. It's their day is similar to ours, about 24 hours, although they don't count time the way we do. And their year is about 454 days. On average, their society, their people live to be about 300 years. And Bashar, for the most part, on average, throughout this entire channeling, has been somewhere in the neighborhood of over, anywhere from 130 to 150 years old, which is middle age as far as they're concerned. So there are many differences in their society from ours, but they say that we are evolving toward something similar to them, although we're not going to experience where they are for quite some time.
Right. So 300-400 year average lifespan?
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere in that range?
Somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
So,
Depending on whether you're
he's not
counting their years or our years.
So he's not that old comparing to their society.
Well, no, but here's the odd thing about it. Their consciousness is so flexible.
So we had a bit of a snafu, and I asked the question saying that he's not that old.
No, but in general, time for them is not what it is for us. And in any given conversation, because their consciousness is so flexible, they might actually be giving information from a 120-year-old version of himself, but another part of the same conversation might actually be coming from a 200-year-old version of himself, because that's maybe where his consciousness needs to go to get the answer for the question he's been asked. So they have this ability to kind of move up and down their own consciousness timeline, in a sense, and the way that they perceive reality because of that is extremely different from the way that we perceive reality.
So do they have access to past life memories, full access to past life memories and stuff too?
When they need to, because again, from Bashar's perspective, there really is no such thing as a past or a future. All things exist at the same time. It's really just a matter of a parallel coexisting reality. It's not really in the past, and that's why it's accessible, because it's all right here, right now. The analogy he often uses is like one of our television sets. He's saying if you're sitting down and watching a television program, you know that there are maybe another couple of hundred other programs that are there at the same time available to be watched, but you're only getting the one you're tuned to. When you change the channel and see another program, that doesn't mean that the program you were watching a second ago no longer exists or is truly in the past. It's still playing. You're just no longer watching it. Your focus has changed to a different frequency. He's saying that reality is actually structured that way, and what we consider to be the past is simply another parallel reality that still exists and always will, but we've shifted our consciousness in a different direction, and we're sort of looking through another frame or another pair of eyes in a different perspective, in a different reality. But all the realities still exist, and that's why you can actually access information for all of them at the same time, because you're not really having to go back into the past. You're not really having to stretch into the future. They all exist here, and they all exist now in some form of vibrational overlap. But we only perceive what we are tuned to as a frequency at any given moment.
That kind of gives me a different perspective on the Akashic records. So that would actually
exactly
the Akashic records would just be sort of a format for people to be able to wrap their minds around being able to access information. And that's not actually the way it happens.
No, no, because he's saying it's not like anything has to be recorded in the fabric of creation, because everything already always exists. So it's just a matter of whatever frequency you're on is basically what the information is that you access, again, just like turning your TV to a different channel. So you're right. From Bashar's point of view, the concept of the Akashic records is just a concept that functions, in his terms, as a permission slip. It gives us permission to access more of ourselves, or we give ourselves permission to be more of ourselves and go to whatever frequency level is representative of whatever information it is that we seek. But you're right. Everything exists here and now, so it's not like it has to be recorded. It's just accessible because it always exists.
So it kind of sounds to me like a more evolved deja vu kind of thing of the way he's able to shift his conscience from one time frame to another. Is it something along that line where maybe we're doing it accidentally, but he's doing it on purpose?
Yeah, we do it all the time. Again, he's not talking about, doing anything that we don't do. He is talking more about simply being more aware of the fact that they do it and we do it. But they can use it, let's say, more consciously, whereas we may be doing it unconsciously. So they can just shift into whatever frame rate they need to and pick up on whatever information they need no matter whether to us it seems like it's in the past or the future or what have you. It doesn't make any difference to them. They're just changing their point of view.
There's a big step between intellectually knowing something and truly knowing something and having access to it, right?
Absolutely, and that's the whole point of the evolution, is they have really gotten to a point where they completely understand and truly know that this is the way reality is structured, and they use it. It's kind of what he refers to sometimes as the science of the obvious. To him, what he's saying is anything that he's telling us, and when he talks about these kinds of principles, he's saying to them it's the same thing as if you had a red rose and somebody asked you what color the rose is, and you would just say, well, it's red. That's not an opinion, it's an observation. So from Bashar's point of view, when he's talking about all of these, really interesting, deep, metaphysical concepts and properties of reality, it's not his opinion. He's just telling you what he sees. It's an observation. They can actually see the structure of existence. That's what their perception, that's what they've evolved to, is they can see the structure of existence itself. So this is describing to us what they see. It's not an opinion. They know it's real, and they know how to use it because they can actually see it.
That brings up something I saw the other day, it's something, a video by Nassim Haram, and he was talking about how, scientists are so, Earth scientists are so evolved on the matter part and looking for the God particle, and he was saying, no, look at what's in between, the space, or what the border of reality, instead of looking for this God particle, because it just gets smaller and smaller. And he was saying what connects the two dots, kind of thing. Is that kind of the same way they see the reality as well? It's like,
well, they express it in any number of ways. And again, from Bashar's perspective, all of these expressions are just metaphors. They're just euphemisms, because there is no way to really translate existence into our language. It's something that has to be experienced. But they will use metaphors. And one of the metaphors Bashar actually often uses is a different way of looking at the concept of the God particle. In other words, he'll take concepts that we're talking about and he'll say, well, if you're going to use that concept, here's how to use that concept in a way that is at least more closely representative of the structure of existence in physical reality. And the way he describes that concept is, he says, if you want to wrap your mind around the concept of particles, again, knowing that this is just a term, think of it as there just being one single particle. Not type of particle, just one single particle. Imagine a void, an absolutely infinite empty void, and in that void there is only one tiny little particle. And if you imagine that, then you realize there's no rules, there's no laws of physics here, since all there is one particle. It's not beholden to any kind of rules, regulations, or forces or anything. And if you understand that one particle has, in a sense, no laws binding it to anything, then if it wanted to, it could travel at infinite speed. There's nothing holding it back. Now, a particle that can travel at infinite speed means the same thing as saying that particle would appear to be every single place in that void all at once. And so what we perceive as many different particles is actually literally the same particle appearing next to itself over and over and over and over and over and over again in different patterns, in a variety of ways, but it is actually literally the same particle. And so everything in the physical universe, everything, is actually literally made out of the same one particle in this ultimate time-sharing sort of idea. And it's just moving at infinite speed, appearing to be all the particles of matter that we consider the physical universe to be constructed of. So that's how he has said you can sort of visualize this idea of what the God particle is really all about if you want to think in those terms. But he's also talked about the fact that that is just a symbol. It's just a representation that allows us to wrap our minds around something, and it isn't necessarily an absolute description of what existence really is.
That actually, I was able to wrap my mind around that quite well. I like that description. I like that description.
Yeah. So, how would you describe your relationship with Bashar?
Well, again, he functions very much, as a sense of my expanded self. It gives me something to shoot for, so to speak. If I want to look at it linearly again and say, well, he's my future self, he's kind of what I'm evolving toward, he's a future incarnation, then I get to have that vibration. By channeling his energy, I get to have that vibration sort of rub off on me, and I can become my version of himself in this reality, and I can expand and I can grow and I can evolve that way myself and use him kind of as a guide or a template for that.
That reminds me of that saying of what is it? If you want to become like successful at whatever, you hang out with those kind of people who are successful at.
Yeah, you mirror them, you get a reflection from them, and you model your energy, you pattern your energy on their frequency. So by patterning my energy on Bashar's frequency for 30 years, a lot of his concepts and a lot of his perspectives have rubbed off on me, and I'm living my life in a much more synchronistic, much more effortless, and much more creative way because of it.
So what's Bashar do for R&R, rest and relaxation? Does he have any hobbies or?
Well, they only do what excites them the most, and certainly connecting with us in other worlds is one of the main things that excites him and the main things that he does as a first contact specialist. But he has said that he's also a pilot of a ship, and he has said that he also is a sculptor. He loves sculpting. Of course, they're using materials that we have absolutely no concept of, in terms of different kinds of alloys and metals and ceramics and crystals and energy and all sorts of stuff that they are able to use. In fact, one of the things he's actually talked about is how they create their ships. And the ships are actually grown out of some sort of crystalline substance. It's like they create this energy field that is the shape of the ship, and they grow the crystalline substance on that energy template. And the substance, the skin of the ship can be very, very thin, because it's like he's saying that energy template is like a dimension unto itself. And if the ship grows in that template, it simply can't be bent out of shape, because to try and bend it out of shape would be like trying to push it into another dimension, and it just can't do that.
Interesting.
So these are the kinds of things that he describes on their planet. But he does, everything he does is what excites him. But he says, they have a variety of expressions like we do. They have artistic, people that are more focused on the idea of art or song or different kinds of sociological, interactions and things like that. But they also obviously have the ability to do things that we don't quite have the ability in our society to do yet.
Yeah. Has their society moved beyond crime and disputes and stuff like that?
Long ago. I mean, I don't even think they necessarily had crime. See, the thing about Bashar's civilization is because they are, for lack of a better term, an artificially created civilization, they're a hybrid civilization, they kind of had a little bit of a leg up on us. They didn't really start, let's say, all the way back at zero. Even though they had more physicality, even though they did have, a history of things that, they experienced, such as disease and things like that in the past, it's not something that they experience anymore, but they were already kind of way ahead of the curve just by being created the way that they were created. So they didn't really have to evolve out of a lot of things that we are having to evolve out of, which is one of the reasons why they're helping us.
And that
they're giving us the advantage yeah, they're giving us the benefit of their evolution and the advantage that they had. They're trying to help us gain some of that perspective.
Yeah. So have they always had that telepathic ability?
No, they actually said that in their history, they were developing it, but there was a point in their history where I guess you could say they reached a kind of a critical mass. And he literally said over a 3-day period, they had what they essentially call the awakening. And from that moment on, from that 3-day period onward, the society was primarily telepathic.
The 100th monkey.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Tom.
Well, I was going to pursue the 100th monkey thing and see what has he talked about the potential of humanity here reaching that level here in the foreseeable future?
He'll only talk about such things in general terms, because he's saying, again, since there are any number of probable future realities, nothing is absolutely set in stone in terms of an absolute timeline. The only things he will predict, in a sense, are those he feels have so much energy behind them that it's unlikely that are going to change. But to him, there's no such thing as a prediction of the future. There's only a sensing of the energy that exists at the moment the prediction is made. Right. And if that changes, then the prediction is obsolete. If it doesn't, then it'll come to pass. He has said we are heading in that direction generally. I don't know that he's been explicit about the idea of when we would all know consciously and function consciously as conscious telepaths. But I think it's, something, if I remember some of the things he's talked about, it'll probably take a while before that'll happen on the planet. And we might be talking on the order of at least a few hundred years. Nevertheless, many, many things, according to him, will change far, far before that in terms of how our society will structure itself. I mean, one of the things he has talked about is the idea of the window of probability for open contact with another civilization. And according to what he is sensing of our energy, at least at this moment, he's saying the likelihood, the greatest probability of the beginnings of open contact will probably happen somewhere between 2025 and 2033. He can't pin it down any stronger than that, because there are just too many variables that could take it in one direction or another in terms of exactly when and who and how, that'll happen. But that's the window he's given us at this point. And before that, he said that a trigger event will happen somewhere between 2015 and 2017, where humanity something will happen, or we'll discover something in that 2 or 3 year time frame where we will know for a fact, finally, that extraterrestrial life is a fact. It's possible. Now, he's not saying how that's going to happen. He's not saying it's going to be UFOs or anything like that. It could even be something that one of our space probes finds in terms of life on one of our planets in our system, in terms of even if it's a microbe. The point is, he's saying, once you know for a fact that life can actually happen on another planet, that's going to change your mindset and the mindset of the world so dramatically that it's going to help accelerate our energy toward the window of actually having open contact with another intelligent civilization.
I hope it accelerates the consciousness of mankind becoming a more unified race.
Ultimately, it will. And it may require the beginnings, of contact with another civilization to really help bring that about. I think it will give us such a completely different perspective of the universe and reality to finally know for a fact that such beings exist, that I think it will start accelerating us towards more unification in a variety of ways. Now, it may be a bumpy ride for a while. It may take a while for us to sort things out because, that's kind of the way we seem to do things here. But ultimately, I think it will smooth itself out into something that will be mutually beneficial for the entire planet.
So are we that ahead of the curve? Because, it's like society needs this one thing for them to finally accept, but for the rest of us who are already having these experiences, what about us?
Well,
you
yeah,
have
I mean,
30
you know,
years
people,
of this
people chose to be here because it is a transformational age, and you know, and there's going to be an average rate for people transforming, but there are also going to be people who are going to be, as you say, kind of like the front runners. Anyone who is willing to explore in an intentional way the expansion of consciousness, anyone who is open-minded and willing to consider, you know, the probability of intelligent life somewhere else, anyone that's truly allowing themselves to know we're more than just physical beings and that we are, you know, infinite, eternal spirits connected to Source. All of these kinds of things, whether you have a metaphysical vocabulary or not, or whether you simply just live that way, are all part and parcel of being kind of, let's just say, on the leading edge of that energy wave that will help other people also realize that they can sort of match that vibration too. Now, not everyone has to, and the way that Bashar actually explains, again, going back into his perspective of how the universe is, you know, or how reality is structured, it's not even really that the world we're in will change. He's saying you never actually change the world you're in. What you do is you make a vibrational change within yourself, and you shift yourself to a parallel reality that already exists, that's already more representative of the change you made within you. So from his point of view, we're actually shifting all the time to parallel realities. Billions, literally billions of times per second. And as we go through these shifts, we do it so smoothly with such a sense of continuity that we don't even realize it's happening. But we are literally shifting from parallel reality to parallel reality billions of times a second. And in fact, Bashar has explained from a physics point of view, that shift of consciousness billions of times per second through different series of parallel reality Earths is actually what creates our sense of time and change and movement and space. Time, in other words, is a side effect of shifting consciousness through billions of parallel realities, in the same way that we project a projector light through many, many frames of film on a film strip to create the illusion of continuity and movement on a movie screen. Every single parallel reality is like a frozen frame on that film strip. There's no movement, there's no experience, there's no time in each parallel reality frame. But when you shift your consciousness or project your consciousness through a series of frames, you create this side effect we call movement in physical reality and time and space. So we're doing it all the time, very smoothly. And so the idea from his perspective is, when we get a handle on understanding we're already doing this, then when we start to have a vibration that is more representative of a certain series of parallel realities, we will start to realize we're shifting, because the difference between the reality that we're in now and the next reality we shift to will be big enough that we'll actually notice that we're shifting, whereas right now we don't notice it.
So the reality that we shift out of, do we leave another aspect of ourselves there?
It's always there.
Yeah.
It's again, exactly like a frame of film strip. There are characters in each frame. And the character, just because the projector light is now shining through frame number 352, doesn't mean that the image of the character in frame 351 is gone. It's still there, but now your higher consciousness is focused in frame 352.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's all from the point of perspective.
Exactly. It's very holographically structured.
Very interesting stuff. So, well, we're zeroing in on the end of this hour, and I know you got a lot of stuff, a lot of irons in the fire, and a lot of things going on, Daryl. So, if you would like to share some of the stuff you got coming up, and
sure, absolutely.
See your website also.
We'll do that. You want to do that now or after?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and rattle some stuff off.
Well, anyone that is interested in the information that Bashar has delivered, by all means, please go and visit the Bashar.org website. That's Bashar, Bashar.org, website, and all the events that we're doing and all the CDs and DVDs of information from seminars that he's recorded for many, many different years is all available there. We have several events coming up here in LA, and we just came back from San Francisco this last weekend doing a seminar that was very interesting. And we have one coming up in Phoenix on December 1st. And we're also doing a special event on the winter solstice night in 2012 here, December 21st and 22nd, where Bashar is going to deliver some information to help us cross this threshold in a new way. So by all means, if you're interested in that, please go visit the Bashar.org website. And if anyone is interested in seeing what we're doing with my production company, Zia Films, you can go to ziafilms.com and see what we're developing there.
That's VIA, Via Films?
Z as in zebra, ZIA.
ZIA.
Yeah, ZIAFILMS, Zia Films. Yes, thank you. Yeah, Zia is the my original production partner, who has since passed away, was Native American, and Zia is the Southwest Indian symbol for the sun. And coincidentally, although there are no accidents, in Arabic, which is partly my background, Zia is the word for light. So we figured it was appropriate for both her side, the Native American side, and my side, the partly Arabic side, to use the word Zia to represent the idea of bringing information through light and sound in the movies.
Very nice, very nice.
So how many different languages is your stuff translated into? Because I know we are
only just beginning to actually translate into a number of languages. I did do a large number of seminars over the last several years in Japan, however, and so I've been there now, I think, 17 times, and every single time I've gone over there in the past, the company that has sponsored me over there, Voice Company, has turned those seminars into books. So there's a lot of Bashar information in Japanese, and there's a lot of Bashar information in English. We're only just now beginning to talk to people about translating a lot of the written material into different languages and putting subtitles in different languages on a lot of the DVDs that we have as well. So that's just getting going now.
Nice. You've got a couple of books you've done too, don't you?
Again, yes. In English, I think there are two main ones. One is called Bashar Blueprint for Change, and the other one is called Quest for Truth, both of which I believe can still be purchased through the Bashar.org website. And, of course, in Japan, if you read Japanese, there's actually, I think, at least 15 Bashar books in Japan now.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, well, I want to thank everybody for listening to our first hour here. And if you're not a member yet, hit that member button and join Ramon and I in the 100th Monkey Radio and have access to all of our second hour content. Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance.
The love you deny is the pain you carry.
And we'll see you on the other side.
Kings and queens and royal gents and popes and priests and presidents, gurus and shamanic healers, pharmacological dealers, zealots righteous in rebirth and worshippers of Mother Earth, mantra chanting meditators, global thinking gladiators, glowing tubes that mesmerize, netting minds like butterflies, hapless flying in the night like moths misled into a light. Information overload, trust me, then do what you're told. Tell me who you think I am, give me meaning in a head. process